Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Lambert Mbom. I am a freelance journalist based in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Today is Saturday, April 3rd. And for those who are Christians, it's Holy Saturday. I happen to be a Catholic. And I'm very privileged, very honored to be hosting one of the greatest Cameroonians you ever get to meet in the United States. Typically, successful Cameroonians in the United States or people who measure success in the United States, you either see them as business people, they are medical doctors, give it whatever form. Okay, but today you have a rare breed of a gentleman. And he's based in St. Louis. I've never been to St. Louis, but I know that it's very cold out there. I've been hearing about him. I've been reading about a few things. The last time there was a conversation, he gave a presentation in a group of men, okay, called Famille. They are a group of Cameroonian men across the United States who came together with socials and many other things. They are doing philanthropic work. That's a conversation for another day. We are not here to celebrate the achievements of Arrey Obenson. We are not here to sing praises. We are here to celebrate a great achievement in my mind. And like I said, it's a new month. Okay, this is the fourth month of the year, but it's the first month of the second quarter. So we are done with the first three. If you had New Year resolutions, maybe it's time for you to check how far you have gone with those. We're getting to springtime in the United States, new weather. So again, an opportunity for renewal is Easter. So I thought it fitting that let us look at something, propose something in terms of literature, in terms of, something people can read and get inspired, read and be motivated. We have lived through a year of pain, a year of suffering, too many challenges with the pandemic. And if you are wondering what to inspire you, what to motivate you, I got something for you. This is it. It is called Bridging the Opportunity Gap. So, three things I want you to take note. There's a bridge, okay? You're bridging something. There's a gap, okay? And there's an opportunity there. Because generally, we tend to complain a lot about the system, about people. We have been cheated here. This has not happened. And we forget that what we are complaining about, which is rightfully so, presents us an opportunity. The greatest thing I've learned just reading the first chapter of this book is there is an opportunity in every challenge. It is it is a story of the glass half full and the glass half empty. You are talking about the same glass. If you look at it as half empty, that is how you take it, half empty. But if you look at it as half full, the positive side, you are going to, bring that up. So again, I want to thank you, Mr. Obenson. Thank you first for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. And just so that people know the caliber of the gentleman we are talking about, Mr. Ray was born in 1971 in Cameroon. He's a lawyer by training, and he went to St. Louis University, Washington University in St. Louis, obtained a Master of Laws in 2005, obtained a degree from the University of Yaoundé, and was admitted to the Cameroon Bar in December 1999. I'm not sure he really likes that bar, but one thing I know about him is if you want to talk about Junior Chamber International, that is synonymous to Arrey Obenson. I started hearing about him when I got into this country 2003, 2004. I had friends in the University of Boya. They all kept talking about Arrey Obenson. So imagine how long the journey it has taken me to be able to interview this genius. He has had he does different things. I'm going to allow him to talk for himself. But I think the most important part of all that I've said, he recently became the president of an institute in the United States. It's not easy, okay? That is what we talk about. You want to cry about systems. For a gentleman to rise to the position of a president of an institute like that is a great feat. But that's not what we are celebrating. we want to celebrate this great achievement. I think for me, it is the greatest thing that you have done. Why? For everybody, because I'm a journalist, I think that you need to write something. Write it so that others can read. If you cannot write, get somebody to sit down and you tell the person. Because all of us, we have so much in us, so much that we need to share. And we are so stuck. We are looking, the social media has revolutionized everything in such a way that you should not be complaining. So I've been talking for too long. Welcome. Again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this gift to the community. And the reason we have this is so that we get together. Remember in February, March, I talked about a book club. I'm building it one book at a time. Okay, this is about the third book we are dealing with. The first one was written by Shesan, my national Shesan president, Eno, and was just giving you the experience of the immigrant experience, somebody who left the United States and went to Africa, isn't it? Then I had Columbia America, okay, that's written by a Cameroonian too. I think she's in Atlanta, one of those states. But this is just, I'm not biased saying I'm picking only Cameroonian authors. Charity begins at home, okay? But so we can celebrate this, read it, share, but also now listen to the author, how he came about this book, why he wrote it, and what you think about it. Mr. Obenson, thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lambom, for giving me the opportunity to join you. First of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you for hosting something like this, and I'm thinking about inspiring people to read, because when you read, you're basically gaining experience or knowledge of some other person's experience, and that should enhance your own experience, and hopefully you can share your own experience with somebody. So we encourage a lot more people to write. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to a very engaging conversation here with you.
So again, you can see how modest the gentleman is. He's thanking me, but let's get into it. So you have been moving around the world. Is there any country you have not yet been to? Which one do you want? Because just the first chapter, you could tell that you have been all over. Are there any others left apart from going to International Space Center?
Yeah. Yes, there. So you know, I know that I've visited over 106 countries. That was my last count. It's probably more than that. But there are countries. One of the countries that I really wanted to visit that I've never had the chance to visit is China. Just because of you know, I've not had any opportunity to go into China and do any work. But most of the countries around the world, but for the very challenging countries to get into, like Iraq, mindful of everything that was going on. I have not visited those countries, but most of the countries I've visited, or I've visited a neighboring country that shares the same kind of culture. So I've been blessed to have that opportunity to meet people in their local settings and understand them and walk in their shoes and understand why diversity is really important for the world in which we live in today.
So 105, I think I've only been to Cameroon and the United States. So, but, so that's a wealth of experience. And that diversity is something that we can't do without, based on the way the world is. I mean, you have lived in the United States long enough with the past administration, all this thing about the war between globalization and nativism, isn't it? Which is better? We want to focus on our local environment and be closed off rather than thinking about the problems of the world. That dynamic, I'm sure I can already tell well before, having been to all these countries. But what's your perspective on multilateralism, if we can call it, or multiculturalism?
Yeah. At one point, I served on the board of the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens, and as a board member, I did a course. They call them MOOCs, so one of these online courses on Coursera, which is one of the online university platforms. And in preparing it for that course, I did a lot of research on globalization, the trends in globalization. And what I found out in my experience, besides the travel, and I always had asked myself that question in my travel. This is going to be very revealing. If we look at the world, this notion of globalization is not recent. This notion of globalization has always been there. I want to tell people that the concept of nation state compared to the history of the world is very recent, right? Before nation states, where we had fixed boundaries of states or countries, the world was basically a playing field which everybody could conquer and get to. So people, human beings, like every living creature, are always going to move. They're going to move based on the circumstances. Living things and human beings run away from danger. So whether it's climate, whether affected by climate, meaning that when there is a drought, when there is this, disasters, natural disasters, people would move. When there is conflict, people will move. And this has been the human nature from the very beginning of time. And so it continues. And it's very interesting to see, even when you look at genealogy, that you see people from South Korea having the same genealogies as the Indians of South America. And, it begs the question, how long have they been moving? People moved from Asia through the Bering Straits before it was broken up to move towards Northern Europe and towards America. So people will always move. Here's what we must remember. Our generation was brought up at a time where we see these boundaries. 10, 20, 15, 30 years from now, the next generation of young people are not going to see the kind of boundaries that we see, where we see man-made boundaries amongst ourselves. No, they're going to look at the world very differently for obvious reasons because of the technology that's available to them. We're going to see government policies, government laws actually transform to adapt to that reality, because a child that is born in Limbe, Cameroon, is going to be coming into a world where they will be competing in their classroom with children who are born in different parts of the world, in China and in North America. So with that in mind, I say to people that you can spend your life resisting change, but that change is going to come anyway. So instead of spending time resisting an eventual change that's going to come, what you must do is spend your energy in embracing that change so that that change gets the best outcome for you and the generations that come after you. It's really important. Instead of resisting change, invest your energy now in embracing the change that will come so that you have the ability to affect the outcome of that change, because it will come. Whether it would have the outcome that you want or that you want for the next generation is in your hands to determine.
If you're just joining us, you're watching the Lambom Show, and I'm on today with Arrey Obenson, and we are about to get into his book, The Gift Opportunity, Bridging the Opportunity Gap, and we have just been talking in general, and that's interesting. I mean, I personally did not know that history even. We just take it for granted that maybe we are the ones who are pushing the edges too much and plumbing the depths in order to get across the world. But it's interesting that in resisting this, we are resisting inevitable change. It's going to come overpower us. And I mean, if you really sit down to, pay attention to it, you will find out that, yes, that is inevitable. Things that we did not expect, did not anticipate, they are all surprising us. But, let me suspend that conversation because we want to dwell more on the book. It's an interesting concept. I like it. I love it. I love traveling. I've not had the opportunity. We can talk about that. Let's get into the book, because tell me, the average African who's in the United States is too busy. Okay, has 2 jobs, hardly has time to read. If he has time to read, it may be something that's related to school material. He's reading for school, pass an exam, and after that. Why would you take time time that you yourself may not have, to write a book like this? What is the motivation?
Yeah, thank you. Somewhere in this book, I wrote something about big picture thinking. One of the chapters here is called Big Picture Thinking. And in that chapter, I asked the question, I said, look, if you ask me what I want with this book, it's logical for anybody who's written a book to say, I want to sell 100,000 copies. That's logical. And yes, it's a good thing to sell 100,000 copies. But I explain in the book that my reason in terms of big picture thinking should be that the people who read this book can use the concepts of the book to be transformational in their businesses, transformational in their lives, and transformational in their communities. It is good to focus on what you learn in school or trying to get a certificate. But the biggest lessons the biggest transformation that will happen in us are the lessons of life. That you go to law school and you're trained to learn how to interpret the laws and how to argue a case in court. And on the first day you get into the courtroom, you realize that it's more the lessons of life that are actually applicable in how you prosecute a case or how you defend a case. So the lessons of life are really important. Now, I have, for the last 20 years, been traveling around the world, engaging people, and particularly young people, and working to develop and implement strategies. And it dawned on me that in the several conversations that I have with people, it was more likely for those conversations to be focused a lot more on what was wrong than what could be right. That it is easier for us to complain rather than for us to find solutions. But I also realized that in as much as we complain, it doesn't change the circumstances. What changes the circumstance is when we start talking about what we can do or what can be done to change the circumstance. And that once you can move from being bogged down with the challenge, with the problem, to actually seeing the light on what the opportunities are, you can actually move quickly to solve a problem, and that elevates people. It creates opportunities for people. It makes us better as a race. So I decided to combine all of this in a book because I never had enough time. I'm invited to speak in a country. I've traveled 2 days, get to do a country and have 30 minutes on stage. Or I spend 2 hours in a retreat with a team of people. There was never enough time to take all of the experience that I've had and share it with somebody in one place. So I figured that putting it in a book may be the best way. And the experience is all captured in the essence of what I have developed for me, a criteria or philosophy about life, is that there is more growth in opportunity than in the challenge.
Wow, is all I can say.
Yeah.
Because again, it's about the big picture, and the big picture for you resulted in the book. Okay, yep. And I really want people to take that personally. So it's not just about life, business, any area you want to grow in. You need that transformation. That's why I started off by talking about renewal. It's a season of renewal. That's what Easter is. That's what springtime is. This is the season. And in order to do that transformation, you need a big picture. And that big picture is in what? the opportunity. And I mean, let me ask in a very generic sense, what, and I'm going against what you just said in terms of, what do you think are the biggest problems African immigrants in the United States face? And how do you think this book helps them to be able to meet that challenge or the challenges?
Here, here's what I would say. We all we all moved. If in an ideal world, you and I would probably be sitting in Africa, in Cameroon, where we all come from, and probably doing the best that we can to advance that community. In an ideal world, our parents sent us to get education, not just because they wanted us to get a job. If that's what they wanted, then that was wrong. Because the ideal world was that we contribute to the development of our community and our country. That's why we went to school, so that we could broaden our horizon to be able to contribute to the development of society. Now we all went in search of greener pastures. And again, talking about the ideal world, we will be going back from the greener pastures, going back with knowledge and experience to develop our countries. I hate to break the news to many of us, including myself, that we may not be going back. That we are here and this is home. In as much as we are connected to Africa and to Cameroon. If this be home, then we must not just see ourselves here as in search of greener pastures. We must see ourselves here as an integral part of this society. And that we're also, as an integral part of this society, we have a responsibility to contribute to the development of this society. What does that mean? That means we can't see ourselves as passing by. We must see ourselves as owning this. And for us to arrive at that conclusion, it needs a mindset. And it's a mindset that says wherever I am is home, and I have a responsibility to my neighbor here, to this community. I have ideas that I can contribute. We have talented Africans here, talented. But our mindset tells us that we are here just for the greener pastures, to work, to generate revenue, build homes back in our country, create opportunities for our families. We can do all of those things, but we can also be involved in development here. And I think that that's a mindset shift that I would encourage people to start thinking. And it starts with very little things that you have to do. Just getting involved in understanding what's going on in your local city, who's running for mayor, what are they talking about, and things like that. You don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be in any one political party, but just being conscious of what's going on, participating in community activities that are taking place, food drives and things that are happening. Once you begin to do that, you'll be amazed at how enriching life becomes, how fulfilling life becomes. And that is the switch that needs to be made. If there's anything holding us back, it's that we too can be determining policies that affect us here. We can influence policies that affect us here. This is what America has been made of. It's people coming from Europe to make America what it is today. So we too can have an influence, would enrich the quality of life for everybody here, for ourselves, and for the next generation that comes after us.
That was really bad news, that Africa is not home, that we're not going back anytime. And it is a very fundamental truth that most of us have not taken home. We live life in anticipation of some better thing going back and settling there, and the years are going, and this mad rush. I think it's a very important consideration. You know, all politics is local. like we have learned, all politics is local. And so, in as much as we want to complain about the systems, the injustices, and everything around us, we can't spend our whole lives at work and think that things are going to change. So, therein lies the opportunity too for us Africans. Go into the local area, look for your niche. What can I do? And get that. I think brilliant opportunity, mindset change.
Amen.
But you know that for most of us who have come here as, I mean, they're adults, our mindsets have already been made up. That switch is a difficult thing to, for the light bulb to go off and somebody makes a U-turn. In fact, I think we are not asking for a U-turn, you're asking for a V-turn, because a U-turn is kind of slowly. A V-turn, you get it, and that is it. What are some of the recommendations? I mean, it seems easy to talk. Let me say this. It is about people. That's one of the chapters that I read and I really loved it. Okay, because it's all about people. We Africans pride ourselves that we are people focused. And I think that if there's any place where that mindset shift needs to happen, is in the way we relate to people. Okay. And I think that, again, those who are listening, those who are watching, I am taking advantage of having a wise man with me and going off topic. Okay, we came here to talk about this book. This is it, Bridging the Opportunity Gap. That's why we are here. I'm going to look up. Text me where it's easier to get a copy, and I want the copies to be autographed so that it's better that way. People who want the copy now can order directly so that they can get it signed. This is Arrey Obenson. He's a Cameroonian based in St. Louis. I don't think you're a Cameroonian. You're American. Am I right? we just talked about that. But we are now discussing a book that has just been published, and it is opening up opportunities for us Africans in the United States or wherever you are to be able to take the opportunities within the challenges that you're facing, so that we all can become better persons. But I don't know whether I have a copy of it so that you can read. I mean, let me put it down. Tell me, if somebody asked you, which is the one chapter, if I just wanted to read one chapter, which is the one you recommend?
Well, I would recommend that they read something called Naive, the second chapter, Naive Audacity, because the second chapter comes after the first chapter, which is Opportunity Trumps Challenge. And in the second chapter, I really introduced my own experience, my mindset shift. How is it that I was able to get to this place where I am today? And it is through something called naive audacity, right? What is naive audacity? It's something that I've coined. Naive audacity is basically our ability to look beyond the challenge. It is having a clear vision of what you want to achieve so clearly that you are able to see beyond the obvious challenges. You know, have you ever tried to say you want to change something, and the first response that you get from the people that you talk to is always, you cannot do it,
Possible.
Yeah, who are you to be able to do this? How can you do this? Say you want to, and in the book I speak about, at the age of 26 in Limbe, Cameroon, I went to visit the General Hospital in Limbe, Cameroon, and met with Dr. Leonga, who at the time was the director of that hospital, and he took me on a tour of the hospital. My observation was that none of the toilets were working in the wards where patients, the reason you have a hospital is for patients to go and be in good sanitary conditions. The toilets were not working, and when we came back to his office after the tour, he opened his office and said, "This is the one toilet that's working in the doctor's office, the director's office." What that told me was that how could we as a society build a hospital that becomes a death trap for the very people that the hospital is meant to protect? 26 years old. I had no idea, no idea how we were going to solve the problem. But I clearly knew what the solution was. And I could spend all my time complaining about that hospital, or I could decide to fix it. I chose the difficult path, find a solution rather than just complain about it. And I went back, sat down with a group of young people in my local JCI chapter, and we worked hard. Within 6 months, we raised over $60,000 in Cameroon money. At the time, it was about 25 million CFA. And we completely changed the plumbing system in the hospital, because the reason the toilets were not working was because the colonial plumbing system that had been there for many, many years and was no longer effective. They had lead pipes and things like that. We changed that, 26 years old. Built out of 14 wards, we totally revamped 9. And it's only after we did that big corporations in the city, CDC and Sonara, came and joined forces to complete the other 6. We set the example. And for me, that's the mindset shift, is that you have naive audacity, means that you have the ability to not be worried about what goes wrong, not be worried about what you fail, not to be worried about what has happened in the past, but focus on what you can affect, which is the future.
Like May Skincare says, oh, wow, that's great. And again, the coinage, and that's the one thing that you find throughout this book, is the way you play with the words, the juxtaposition of these things. It's interesting to see how that comes through. I'm going to talk about the text itself, but look at just that naive. You mix up naivete with some audacity. Those it sounds like an oxymoron in a certain sense. Okay, but the point you draw home the point so perfectly. What is it? What seems impossible, then you go there and you're able to say, okay, that's how can we fix it? Okay, and the thing, let me ask you this. Every chapter begins with an African proverb.
Yeah.
Yet you told me here that Africa is no longer home. Why didn't you just ditch all these African proverbs and pick something that is American, or something that, what is it about the African thing? And I mean, I understand the point you're making about Africa not being home, but again, it kind, I mean, it's self-defeating, if I'm saying that correctly, if you are not mixing up the African and the American. Why not putting some African American proverbs?
So Africa, once I had been on television in Cameroon, and they asked me about whether I was American or Cameroonian, and I said, see, I carry an American passport, but I was born in Cameroon, and you don't choose, you don't have a choice of where you come from, right? You can choose to assume the colors of another place because that's where you live and that's where you bring it, and be part of the development there. I pay taxes here. So I understand that I have a role to play here. But I also come to America with the diversity of who I am, meaning that I was born in Cameroon, I was born African, and I wanted to give it my African flavor in the conversation, because that will always be there. I can never change that, right? And so I wanted to bring that. And there were several reasons why I choose to do this. Because over the years, for all the years that I traveled, I always represented myself as coming from Africa, and wanted to demonstrate to the world that Africa can have the highest standards that the world expects anywhere, and that I would always stand by that. I also wanted to make sure that some of these concepts which we see in the corporate world are also concepts that are deep rooted in African philosophy, and sometimes even at the origin of some of the innovation that is taking place in the world today. Very, very, yeah, there are common examples like Lyft. It originates from the way that we do transportation, for example, in Zimbabwe, from the village to the city. is that we share rights, right? And it's an African philosophy that has been transformational for the world. Lyft and Uber. Think about it. I went to high school in Bambili, and we share rights to go to the city to buy supplies when coming back. So I wanted to bring the African touch to a conversation that is really about how we transform the future, and use African concepts to inspire concepts that we may see as futuristic.
That's absolutely amazing, because there are times we shy away from our African roots because we think that, and it just beats my imagination how, look at the simple thing like lift. I did not know that concept. You see how it translates from the continent, and the revolution is happening. So again, if you're just joining us, please let me share something here. See, screen. So if you're able to, you go to the page, you have Bridging the Opportunity Gap. The hardcover is $28.99. The paperback is $16.99. Please, again, for the sake of consuming, not just consuming things African, but also just that support a brother, okay? Let's get a copy. I have mine here. If you want to borrow mine, I can lend it to you, but let's support a brother. Okay, get a copy, because there's so much wisdom. And like I shared with the author at the beginning of while we were in the green room, I told him, what I love so much about this book is this is not theory. He just gave you an example. He gave us an example here of an experience he had in Limbe, Cameroon. There was a problem. He could have walked away saying, oh my God, I would have cursed the system, cursed the doctor. But then he went back, gathered a group, they looked for solutions, looked for money, and it was solved. It sounds like, the way you put it sounds like step A, B, C in a line, and that's how you move. But I'm sure it was fraught with a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, and yet you borrowed your way through and said, I have to see to the end. Now, let's get to the writing of the book. What process? How did you sit down? How did you put this together? I mean, because many people find it difficult. Oh, how do I sit down to write a book? This thing is meant for some particularly gifted persons like Mr. Arrey Obenson, isn't it? Do I need to have the particular qualities of an Arrey Obenson in order to write? What was the process? How did you find it? Was it difficult, enlightening? How did you go about it?
The process in itself was unprecedented for me, because I had never written. I always write short articles. I always write inspiring notes for people and things, but thinking logically on how you categorize this in the book was challenging for me. So here's how I played it out in my mind. First, I had to think about, what is the message that I want to communicate? What is the one thing about me that I would like the world to know about, that I want to share from my numerous experiences? So I thought about maybe something on leadership, because I spent a lot of time in leadership. But not everybody is going, and I thought about that and said, yeah, there's a lot of leadership concepts out there, and not everybody may relate to leadership. And so I started playing with this. I've always focused on this word opportunity. And I took the word opportunity and asked myself, why are people not capitalizing on the opportunity? And how can I get people to focus on that opportunity? And I thought about it from, there is a gap here. There is a gap. So let's bridge the gap. So I came up with a theme of the book. Well, not the title of the book, the theme of the book. And then I sat down and said, what are some of the things that people need to be able to bridge the gap? So whether it's mindset thinking, whether it's leadership concepts, focusing on other people, stepping out of yourself. And then, so I wrote down this 9 chapters of the book, and then I put that aside and just went about thinking about how those 9 chapters get together. And I started writing the book in September of 2019. And I recall that I started writing this book in New York. And the reason I started writing it was because I was attending the UN General Assembly. And I was watching the General Assembly and saying, every year, global leaders come together and they talk about the same challenges. Every year they come together, they talk about the same challenges. What if we were talking about the outcomes? What if we were providing solutions? And so I just started writing Opportunity Trump's Challenge, playing over the word Trump at the time of Trump, right? But I just started writing, and it just kept on flowing. So for about 7 months, sometimes I would break for a week, not because I wanted a break. Just sometimes I was not. I would tell I was not motivated. Sometimes I was stuck with ideas, and so I wake up every morning, any between 5 and 8 a.m. I usually would spend my first hour trying to figure out the things that I want to write about. And then I would just start writing. And I wrote every morning as much as I could. But I wrote too much, right? So one of the challenges was that I wanted to write a book, but I also wanted to write a book that somebody who is too busy can read it. I didn't want a book where it would be too voluminous that could discourage people from reading it. And there's a lot of science and research that goes into the book. So this book has about 40,000 words, which is recommended to be the kind of book that everybody will be able to read from cover to cover. And if it was a novel, maybe it would be different, but this is about experience. So the target audience is people who want to develop themselves, people who are in leadership roles, people who are thinking about what tomorrow looks like. So 40,000 words seemed like where I wanted to end. At some point, I was at about 70,000, 80,000 words, and I struggled to bring that down. Now, writing the book is one thing. Editing the book is another. So by the time I was, getting to the end of the book, I started figuring out, how do I go back and read it? Who is going to read it? Started looking for all the editors around the world and found this great lady from South Africa who took a first crack at it. And that's where I realized that I had written something meaningful. Because when you write for yourself, you're reading and writing, you're writing a book until somebody else begins to read it and makes sense to them. So I started giving it out to friends, and the feedback I was getting was, this is something, and so now I started looking for publishers. Never been in publishing. Publishing in itself is complicated, but anybody who has published a book will tell you that. But managed to get this publishing ex libris to work with me on publishing the book, picking colors of the book, picking titles, structuring the book. All of those things were all new to me. Even laying out the book itself, it's something that I had not done before, but I had to apply myself to do it because it's the first time that I'm writing a book. So I had to do this investment, and I hope that the second time I'm writing a book, a publishing house is going to come to me and say, we want you to write a book, and I'll work with them that way, and it's not going to be too much of a burden. But here's the opportunity that the pandemic gave us. Because we were all home, I had the opportunity to write a book. So locked down, I made an opportunity out of it. Here's a book that came out of the pandemic.
You just challenge some of us who spend the lockdown complaining about the lockdown. And that is, again, for the sake of the audience, look, the difficult part is beginning. Once you sit down, write, and you know what you want to do, Even if you're struggling with it, just write.
Yeah.
You've heard it. The first part is the writing, there's the editing, there's the publishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And each part has its challenges. Okay, it's not enough just to sit down and write, isn't it? And then you say, oh, but this man, why is this book costing me $28 or $19? Well, he could give it out for free, but I don't think you want to get it for free because the publishers, they have a cost to it, isn't it? And all that. But I really want to thank you because, again, just saying that is the greatest gift for me with this book is the fact that it is not theory. I've said that this is about the third time. It's not theory. This is somebody's experience. There was a challenge with the pandemic, and I can say it too. I graduated from journalism school in 2012. I graduated from Columbia School of Journalism in New York. That's the best journalism school in the world. I've never done anything related to journalism. But when the pandemic came up, I said, I'm not going to continue complaining that, oh, journalism in America is hard for us immigrants. I want to do broadcast, but my accent and all that. I just said, I'm going to get a show. I don't wait for anything, but I think since March, I've been on. If I've missed a week or two, that's because maybe something happened. But it has been fulfilling. And I think that for me, that is what I think everybody, the challenge created an opportunity. And I'm also taking the opportunity now to say, I always buy books. I never read them. So in order to help me read, that's why I get a club. And if you get the author to even come on your platform, then you are even doubly blessed. I only regret that this has not been signed by the author. We have struck a deal. When he comes to town anytime this whole thing is over, he's going to sign this copy. Okay. But again, I just wanted to remind the audience, please go to this site, transformunity.com/bridging the opportunity gap. I'm going to leave it again just for there are just a few people watching this. Many people always come back later. It's a Saturday. Many people are doing other things. They always come back. So you can always come back, follow the comments and respond to them. But I want it to be not that we just sat here talking. Take the opportunity. There's something that when you say transformunity, that's a strange word. How did you come up? What does that mean? I know it's your transformation and all that, but what does that mean?
Well, when I had picked in the leadership of my former organization, JCI, and I wanted to step back a little and do something else, I created this company with a group of partners, which we coined Transformunity. Transformunity comes from two words, the word transform and opportunity. And we thought that these two principles are principles that affect the future. I've said this several times about our ability to affect the future. The way we affect the future is by being transformational and capitalizing on the opportunities that the future presents. So transformunity is a coining of these two words to transform and opportunity. That's why harnessing the opportunities that transform the world, essentially.
So for a medical doctor, somebody who's already accomplished, doesn't have anything to look up to, what message do you have for them? There are many people who already in their careers, they have arrived, isn't it? They have a good house, two garages, chicken in their pot, the American dream, put it that way, isn't it? What should they be looking for? Can they be transformational again? What is the opportunity there? Is this just for people who are still struggling?
Yep. So the essence of who we are is not the qualification that we have. It's not how much money we earn. It's more than that. It's how we contribute to the development of society. We come here on planet Earth, and we get on this incredible stage called life, and we get off that stage at some point. But what our performance on that stage has been really determines the future or the continuity of life itself. Today, you and I have the opportunity to be talking from very distant places. And the reason we have the opportunity to do that is because of a contribution that somebody made. Not only in the sphere of science, but even in the sphere of politics, even in the sphere of development, that we were able to develop to the point where we can communicate this effectively, even though we're far away. So for anyone who thinks that they have gotten to the point where they have enough, well, that's about them. It's not about us. And you are actually more effective when it's about us, when you are contributing to the larger society, where you're thinking beyond just yourself. You know, when you talk about the American dream is not about me. The American dream is about building a society where everybody, life, liberty, justice, and all, where happiness, the people, everybody can pursue happiness. That's the American dream. And that each one of us can play a role in that American dream. If you want to talk about the American dream, that should be it. That should be the dream that we have for our country, Cameroon. That should be the dream that we have for the continent, that we have a responsibility to play towards the development of society. So let us look beyond the qualifications that we have. Let us look beyond having a shelter over our roof. And let us ensure that many more people can have shelters over their roof, so that I can live as well to achieve the greatest potential that I have, is that I'm contributing to more than just me and my family.
So again, I think this is a message that needs to, we need to spread this message. I call it spread this gospel, because our people hunger for knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge, because we have been so limited in terms of expertise. We have an expertise in an area, then we think that we now know it all. And it stifles development, it stifles growth, even individually. And I think, again, Divine Chamukong is a journalist who is based here, runs a show called Chat Night Africa. He wrote something the other day about PhDs, okay? Africans have this crazy thing about doctor this and doctor that. Nothing wrong with that, isn't it? Great. But how is that helping our community? How is that transforming the community? How is that helping us to build up? What are the opportunities your PhD is creating for the community in which you live, beyond just that title?
Yeah.
And I think that for me, those are the messages, and somehow we need to let this, again, education continue. Now, I promised you. So let's pick one. I want to say the best part and read out. I want to see what for you is the best. Everything in it will be best, but just pick out one and read it so that somebody will get inspired by that.
Okay, great. So I have two passages that I'm going to read, if it's okay. I'll go with the first one because it really introduces the book.
Cool.
And it actually is what inspired the book, because it's almost written like a poem. It actually started out as a Facebook post on my Facebook, wow. And then it led to a book. So I'm going to read it. And it's on page, it's right in the preface of just before the preface of the book, on Roman page 9, right? Mm-hmm. And it's called Bridging the Opportunity Gap. And I'm going to read what I wrote here. It is all about the opportunity as opposed to the challenges. It is all about the solutions and not the problems. Too often we allow ourselves to be defined by our challenges and our problems. Experience tells me that individuals, organizations, and corporations that focus on their challenges are defined by their challenges. They typically suffer or collapse under the weight of those challenges. On the other hand, individuals, organizations, and corporations that focus on their opportunities are defined by those opportunities. They typically grow and flourish. Ideas that have flourished and organizations or corporations that have endured and succeeded in transforming our lives all focus on opportunity. They are solution oriented. If you want your idea to flourish and you desire to change the world and try to grow into a leader, you must be solution oriented. You must focus on the opportunity. Find the silver lining in every challenge. Challenge the status quo and be disruptive. Don't remain stuck to your past failures. Open your mind to new perspectives and you will prevail. It is about the opportunity. Nothing but the opportunity.
Wow.
So that's the first passage that really inspired the book. After I wrote this, again, I can't remember in what year, but I had just got this inspiration and I put it out on my Facebook post. I saw a lot of the reaction and I said, okay, this may be it. This may be the thing, you know. So that's the first part. Would you want me to go on to
yes, go to the next one. I've just it's important. I mean, that is, if I make any comment on that, I'll be subtracting, and I don't want to do that because it speaks for itself. It's quite enriching.
Yes. So this part is on page 46. It's the chapter. This chapter is called. This chapter is big picture thinking. As you see, I like my big picture thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the African proverb that goes with the big picture thinking is what the wise can see sitting, the unwise cannot see standing. And the passage I'm going to read now is a transformational moment again for me, where I had been traveling across Africa, trying to inspire young people in Africa to be solution providers in their countries. And I was attending this event in Casablanca, Morocco, organized by us, where I saw all these young people. You talk about PhDs, but I saw la crème de la crème of Africa sitting in a room. And yet outside that room was a continent that was falling apart, a continent that was not meeting the aspiration of its founders, who hoped that they were going to get independence and get a country or get a continent that will outmatch the rest of the world. And yet. So I'm going to start from page 46, and I'm just going to read what happened. In 2012, I sat in a room full of some of Africa's brightest young people, or so I thought. It was the JCI Africa and the Middle East Conference Assembly. I had watched for a full day with great dismay how each leader came to speak to the room about the amazing work that they had done in their various countries. All they did was praise themselves for the efforts they had done for the organization. It just did not seem like they assumed responsibility for Africa and the Middle East or their various countries. There was no big picture thinking. It was all about themselves and the organization. I was troubled. How could it be that we bring such an outstanding group of people who were business owners, entrepreneurs, mid-level cadres, civil servants, teachers, and lawyers together? These were the people who had the capacity and ability to transform Africa. And here we were sitting in a room of a 5-star hotel in Casablanca, Morocco, and yet outside that room were beggars asking for a meal. As Deputy Secretary General of the organization and a son of the soil, I was even more troubled. I recall going up to the chairman at the time, Mr. Pascal Dike from Nigeria, and asking him to allow me to address the audience. He allowed me. I took to the podium, and to this day, I know not where these words came from. By the time I was done, I was tearing. Half the audience was in tears, and everyone was on their feet, even those who did not pay attention to the words that I said. Here was the message to the young people. It has been 50 years and more since African countries attained independence. 50 years ago, young people like you in this room had dreams, big dreams. They dreamed of an Africa that was free and independent, an Africa in which every child that was born had access to clean, potable water, good quality education, good quality health, and justice. They dreamed of a continent that had no reason to envy the West, a continent that had no reason to envy, a continent that with good roads, hospitals, universities, and city parks. These were young people in their late 20s and early 30s. They stood for something bigger than themselves. They were visionary. Here we are 50 years after most African countries have attained independence. And yet the dreams of our founders still elude us. They gave us independence. They gave us the countries and flags we represent in this room. Now it is our time. What will we give the next generation of Africans? What will the next generation say of our generation? What were our dreams? What are our hopes and aspirations? What did we do about it? For over 50 years, our organization has professed to create leaders on this continent. We have had all sorts of titles and occupied all sorts of positions, and yet Africa still lags behind. We're sitting in a 5-star hotel in Casablanca, all dressed up in suits, and yet outside this room is a continent that is plagued with poverty, corruption, and conflict. 50 years of trying to bring change, and yet not every child that is born on the continent has access to potable water, decent quality education, and access to healthcare. This is not the story of the countries we want. This is not the dream our founders had. I challenge you, my brothers and sisters, to stand up for something bigger than yourselves. We are nothing if we are in this for self-aggrandizement. We are talking to ourselves, talking the big talk, and yet we are not relevant to the people and the continent that needs us. I challenge you to not be leaders of just your national organization, but of your countries and of this continent that is yearning for new leadership. I challenge you to change the narrative of poverty and misery and darkness that has so plagued Africa. Turn on the lights, bring hope back to your communities and your countries. That's my...
Wow, that's I mean, I feel you should just read the whole book.
Well, people have to buy the book. There's not enough.
Exactly, and that's my point. And I really want to say, I would have loved to continue, but before we wrap up this, because I said we can go on for now, let me give you, there are 9 chapters in this book, 9, okay? Yeah. There are 9 chapters. That's coincidental, okay? I said at the beginning, I'm a Catholic. When we want to do things, we either do 1, 3, 7, 9, 12, 40, or 400, isn't it? So since he chose 9, we are doing a 9-day novena.
Okay.
Novena and 9. So it's a prayer you pray for 9 days.
Yes.
So what I'm challenging us to do is, please, I want to give you 9 reasons why you should get a copy. The first reason why you should get a copy is it is written by an African. That's your first reason. If for no other reason, you don't have any other reason, you are looking for something to do, give me, I've given you one. It's written by an African. Why would I not buy a book written by an African? Why would you not buy a book written by an African? Okay, one reason. Number 2, this book is $28. I mean, I'm talking about a hard copy, 28. Shipping will come to like 33, 35, depending on where you are. Think about it. $35? That's a gift. Yeah. So for anything, if you wanted to buy a gift, just think about it. If you wanted to buy a gift for somebody, and you send them a gift card of $35, they'll say, man, come on, are you that cheap? Okay? Think of just a book, 35. Number two. Number three is you can actually read this book in one day, but take 9 days. Because the reason why I wanted Mr. Obenson to read it is because it is really English. You can sit, okay, read this book without getting through any dictionary. You would in fact, when I started, the only thing that disturbed me was because somebody came in, I was reading it at work. I was like, come on, man, you are supposed to. You want this book, you can get it in 9 days. Read through it in 9 days. Fourth, you can read every chapter independently. I just tried it. I wanted to read the last chapter. And I realized that I could read the last chapter and it makes so much sense without even going to the first chapter. Isn't it? You can read it independently. Above all, it is an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to transform. Look, people pay money to get to coaches, to get to experts, okay? And one session to sit with an expert in this country, if you are lucky to get $350 for an hour, then you are. This is an opportunity. Somebody has offered you his entire experience, everything, 105 countries put together in one book. That's an opportunity. Again, this Easter, if you are looking for something to offer somebody, get this book for the person. Okay? Above all, it is for the family. Okay? For the family. So take time. I have 3 kids. I'm going to make sure that I read it with my kids. I take a chapter, read. That is so that they too, because the transformation is not just about us. It's not just for us. It's also for our kids. You know, you are able to, because when they read some of these experiences, you know, they themselves become enriched. And my 9th reason is it is rich with African proverbs, African experiences, but at the same time, it celebrates the diversity that the author has put together. His wealth of experience, everything that has impacted him in terms of that Africanness woven together with the diversity makes it so rich. 9 reasons. If you don't get a copy, then I don't know what else could convince you. So I'm appealing, get a copy and get to the site. This is the site, transformunity.com/bridging the opportunity gap. I'll leave it there so that get a copy. When you get a copy, please make sure you get it signed. Okay? Make sure. I want to thank you. It was great. Any last words, Mr. Obenson?
First, again, I want to thank you, Lambom, for giving me the opportunity to share insight into the book, and encourage anyone who hasn't read the book to do so. I can guarantee you that it's going to be transformational for you. The last words that I have for everyone else is that, you know, it's what I said in the first passage that I read. If you focus on your challenges, you become defined by those challenges. If you focus on your opportunities, you become defined by those opportunities. Challenges are the status quo. It is where you are today. Opportunity is where you can be tomorrow. And between the challenge and the opportunity, you need to find a way to bridge the gap. You need to bridge the gap. And to bridge the gap, you need a set of tools, with the principal tool being your mindset, how you think. If you can paint a picture of what the future looks like, and it is one that is full of opportunity, everything that you do, your action, your words, your deeds, all of them reflect the aspirations of what you want to see in your vision. So think about opportunity, and everything else that follows is going to be opportunity oriented. That's the message that I would leave from you. And you can try it yourself. You say the mind is cultivated. Nobody comes to the world with a mind that is set in one way or the other. The mindset is developed by the way that you perceive things. And so you can cultivate the mindset that is positive, the mindset that is opportunity oriented. It begins by looking at the small things around you, seeing the opportunity in those things, focusing on those opportunities, and then suddenly opportunity becomes second nature to who you are. So mindset is everything. And you would find the secret in this book, Bridging the Opportunity Gap. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, I feel like we should have this going on forever, but I'm sure I'm going to take you up maybe sometime, do a chapter, and let's
I
get
have
this
to
going.
come back. We can work on speak a specific chapter, and we can do it.
I really want us to. So again, thank you very much. Challenges, the status quo. Opportunities, the future. You have to bridge the gap by doing what? Mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. And that mindset is what? Paint a picture. Paint a picture of what the future, okay? And that future should be full of opportunities. You don't know, this is some music for me in terms of calming my nerves, calming me. And I mean, personally, it's a tonic that I've taken this morning. Many people may understand what I'm talking about. Some of us are going through some challenges, but these challenges become opportunities. I want to thank you very much. And again, I encourage everybody, please get a copy. If you don't want to read, get a copy and send to anybody as an Easter present, and they will come back to thank you. That is worthwhile. So again, thank you, Mr. Obenson. I'm sure I'll reach out to you again so that we can plan some more sessions and go through the book so that everybody gets to know opportunities. Don't focus on the challenges. Again, happy Easter, and thank you, everybody. Until then, see you. It's been a great Saturday. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to you next week. It's Easter. We'll start again on Monday with our Mindset Boulevard. We are dealing with African immigrant men. We are dealing with relationship issues. Wednesdays is our international development. And of course, Saturdays, we'll talk about anything and everything. But again, mindset. Get a copy. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thank you.